Well, that's what
You go
happens.
to a higher plane of thinking and really take what you see outside, but form your own opinion about what you are and who you are. But at first you're not, because you're influenced by someone else. Like
Right.
we were
And at
raised
some point-
Christian. We were both in the military. We had all this stuff dumped on us, telling us who we are, who we had to be, our values, what was good, what was bad. But I mean, as you get older, I think you take all that with a grain of salt.
It's not necessarily older. There's a lot of
For me, it was
elderly
older,
people.
because I got out of the military older, and then I started picking and choosing what mattered to me, and then I started to find what I thought made me a good person, or what I thought good morals were, and I think that's kind of where he was leaning to. That's what I thought.
He has trouble with regular morals.
Who's the president that has that similar mustache that he has? I know it's an older president. It's not Chester A. Arthur. He looks like he has a Chester A. Arthur mustache. You know what I'm saying?
I think Teddy Roosevelt had one.
Yep.
McKinley, I think, had one. Not sure.
I found your meme
My meme?
about the one you're talking about the old ladies getting pulled over and saying 20. And then it
Oh.
shows to the back seat. I put it on Facebook because I thought it was awesome.
Route 119.
Yeah. It popped up on my timeline. I'm telling you, everything listens. Everything's listening to us.
And it is. It's.
It was really, I opened up my thing and it was the next thing on my feed. I'm like,
Yeah, I don't. It's synchronicity of a scary sort, I suppose. Let's see if it calls me. I'm gonna have to call myself. That's so silly. I don't have messages. I'm not expecting many folks to be here today. Is that about right?
I don't know. I get most of my studying done 2 hours I sit before class starts.
Did anyone have a chance to see the video with Bethany Hughes on either Marx or Nietzsche?
Is that the one you told us not to talk about in class?
Not to talk about? Huh.
No, I'm asking.
I can't imagine me saying not to talk about something in class. We're pretty open to talk about whatever you're interested in. Indeed?
Well, would you like a? I don't drink,
Oh.
and I accidentally ordered it.
I don't either.
Anybody wants this your shirt or Coca-Cola?
Good, thank you.
It was a mistake.
Somebody will like them. You can leave them with Callie at the front desk.
Yeah.
The hub
Yeah.
person. She might find somebody that.
Oh, it says you don't mention it in the class section. My bad.
It says what? What?
I read that wrong. My bad.
No. We're still a little early. That same person from Appalachia says, I'll tell you two things about the mountains in Appalachia that you didn't know about. One, they're mountains. Two, they're in Appalachia.
Is that like
It's so
the
silly.
most obvious thing?
Yeah. And then she gives you this straight look, you know, like, see, you didn't know that. It's not TikTok though. It's on Facebook.
I don't get it. It's like Captain Obvious right there.
I don't know how I pick up on these things. But the thing is, I understand that if you watch them, that's a like. And so that you end up getting onto their feed somehow. And I don't know how you could watch them without doing that, because that's the trigger, I guess.
Yeah, when I was reading about Nietzsche and Ubermensch, it reminded me of a quote, famous one, from William Ernest Henley. Do you know who that is?
Nope.
He wrote the poem Invictus.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
I'm the master of my fate. I'm the captain of my soul.
Wow, sounds very
I think that is
Nietzschean.
very relatable to what Nietzsche was saying about Ubermensch. And I love
Nietzschean.
that quote. I love that.
I suppose one of the individuals that claims to be a Nietzschean is Madonna. There was an interview where she was very serious and talked about her philosophy. And
You
she
can tell
says
that she
she's a
wasn't moved by anybody
Nietzschean.
else's rules, so I agree with her. So.
I know for a lot of serious academic philosophers, Nietzsche didn't used to be thought of as a philosopher. It was more of a literary, author, kind of inspiring writer, but not necessarily a philosopher. But that's not. When I was a kid, there was a hotbed of Nietzsche, philosophy in Texas. University of Texas had like a bunch of professors that were all fond of Nietzsche and talking about Nietzsche.
In that Bible part of town, wow.
It wasn't biblical at all. I
No, I
mean,
mean-
because Nietzsche is very anti-Christian, very
That's what I'm saying.
anti-biblical.
And Texas is a big Bible state. So. In fact, churches own like half the property there. So. At least they do in East Texas, where I'm from.
You can see I haven't trimmed my mustache now for a while because I've been planning on having it as thick as I could get it for the class. I mean, I still have the beard too. If you're living in Alaska and you can grow a beard, and I know some of you can't, it's actually a very sensible thing to have a beard in Alaska. That's just, you go outside and you're not cold. At least not in your face and neck. You've automatically got your own scarf, basically. But the mustache, I'm confused. Why on earth Ecce Homo has a mustache? Because if you don't have a way of trimming it, it also becomes difficult to eat and drink. And you end up with a mustache that ends up looking like whatever you had for dinner. So it's been interesting. Just this morning, trying to drink the coffee and learning how to sip it from the bottom without letting it get all into your mustache, and it doesn't really work. Even just this morning, someone said, "How come you don't use wax?" And I'm like, "No, I don't like any of that weird stuff." I suppose he might have used wax. How do you get it to look like that? But I guess it was also style. I don't know. Pretty weird. But that was just that. But so one of the first things I'm going to do when I get home today is trim this sucker. Just trim it way up into there. I also understand that when you've got a big mustache like this, it's harder for people to hear what you're saying. Does that make sense? Kind of muffles your speech. So much for a mustachy thing. But so Nietzsche, we don't have any doubts that he's a philosopher today. But I think that was the problem, not with just Nietzsche, but with a lot of Europeans after Hegel that started getting into this difficulty, like Kierkegaard. Soren Kierkegaard is clearly one that's trying to figure out, okay, well, if Hegel's right, and we just make up these narratives that give us meaning and value, then you can't really trust any of them as being true. There's no such thing as a narrative being true. But Kierkegaard went ahead and assumed that, okay, I have to pick my own narrative. I'm free to pick my own narrative. What narrative will I pick? And he picked a traditional Lutheran narrative. A little bit of a variant. I mean, he got in trouble with a lot of Lutherans over his interpretation of what Lutheran Christianity should be like. Plus, remember, I'm also convinced that he never really convinced himself, so he failed miserably at that. Nietzsche approaches the same problem, if you had a chance to see the Bethany Hughes BBC video on Nietzsche, you know that he was a God-fearing Lutheran, grew up with a father who was a minister, although relatively young. His father ended up losing his mind, literally. Ended up, in the autopsy, discovered that half of his mind was gone. He had some kind of softening of the brain or mental illness associated with a brain disease, which, by the way, he passed on to his son, because Nietzsche, very early in life, ended up with lots of mental anguish, pain, headaches, migraines maybe. I don't know if we'd call them that today, but he ended up at age 44. So he only made it to age 44 and collapsed. Never recovered. It took 11 years before he finally ended up dying, but he collapsed in the street of the city of Turin, and famously he was his last deed essentially was to see a driver whipping his horse in the street, and he ran over and hugged the neck of the horse, basically trying to block the whip from hitting the horse, and collapsed. And that's where he collapsed, pitying the horse that was being whipped mercilessly by the driver, apparently. And ended up in an asylum. It was in Basel, Switzerland, an asylum for most of that time, the 11 years. But the last 3 years, he ended up being taken care of by his sister Elizabeth in a house which you can actually go visit. It's a Nietzsche museum now. Let's see if I can. We'll talk about Schopenhauer today as well. And we'll talk about her. That's Lou Salome and Rilke, who is another author. They were good friends. That's his sister Elizabeth when he's in his last years. He died in 1900, so it's pretty easy to remember that. And there's his grave, bust. And there's the house. That's a different angle than you usually see it, but there's a picture of Hitler being presented with his walking cane, his walking stick. Might have that on here. That's a rock. And why is that rock? If you saw Brittany Hughes' presentation, that rock is in Silas Maria, if I'm saying it right. Sils Maria, I guess. But in any case, it was by that rock when he was walking along the lake one day that he had that idea about the eternal recurrence that David, you were talking about, the eternal recurrence. That's where he had that idea, right by that rock. That's kind of neat.